All right, everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, I am Misty and this is This Family Life, and you're in my messy kitchen today. The reason for that is I am home by myself and Mr. Pupster doesn't want to be by himself, so I have to be, he's in my lap. And so I'm sitting down, I'm using the tripod, not something that I normally do for videos. So today we are continuing our grocery tips and tricks. We are on segment 2 of our pantry planning. I'm trying to straighten the camera as best I can. So today we're going to talk about 25 must-have food pantry staples. Okay, so there are lots of lists out there. If you don't agree with mine, that is okay. I just tried to come up with the most comprehensive list that I could to share with you, and then I will share with you if I actually do stock quite a bit of this or not in my own pantry. And then he's biting on my hand here. He's teething, so he is nippy at everything. So anyways, last week we talked about how to start a prepper pantry. Still can't say it, prepper pantry. This week we're going to talk more about what goes in it. So the number one thing I have for you is canned meats, okay? So what canned meat should you stock? Again, going to depend on what you like to eat. In my house, we do canned chicken, which I use mostly in soups, but I do occasionally mix it in with enchiladas, and my family has not noticed that yet. I keep tuna fish. I keep canned salmon for old-fashioned salmon patties. And then just recently, I added to my prepper pantry 3 cans of beef. I have never used that before, but I thought that could be a fun ingredient to work into a video to show people how to utilize that, because I see it in a lot of videos on YouTube and people aren't always sure what to do with it. So I thought maybe that could be fun. I don't keep Spam. My grandmother loves Spam. My mom loves Spam. I don't like Spam, so I don't keep that in the pantry. But I don't keep sardines. You could keep sardines. There's canned crab meat. There's all sorts of options as far as canned meat. But again, in my house, we stick pretty much to tuna and chicken. Those are the two, chicken chunks and tuna fish. And then we do have salmon and again, the 3 cans of beef that I just got. So the next one is breadcrumbs. I think breadcrumbs are a great thing to have in your pantry area because they can be used as a binder and they can also be used as a coating to help keep meat moist. So I coat my chicken in it sometimes. I coat pork chops in it quite often. It is always moist and delicious and juicy inside. And then I do use it as a binder, like for meatballs. You could also make meatloaf with it, or anything else that you need to bind or coat, okay? So breadcrumbs. Now, there are different types of breadcrumbs, right? I typically just keep the Italian ones. It doesn't matter what recipe I'm making, the Italian ones work just fine. Okay, so the next one I have on my list is milk. This is actually, ow, sorry, got my finger. This is actually something that I had never really considered. I do keep some sweetened condensed milk and some evaporated milk for different recipes, but just keeping shelf-stable milk. So when I was doing the tips and tricks video for you where I showed you things that you could pick up at Dollar Tree, I picked up shelf-stable milk and ended up using it rather quickly when I found out that my kids had drank all the milk and I was making mashed potatoes. Typical in my house. So we used it up pretty quick, but it is something that now I do keep a little bit of in my pantry and something that I would work towards adding more to in my pantry. Right now I just have 2 of the small ones, like for a quick rescue, but I would probably take like $10 sometime, go to Dollar Tree and stock up on shelf-stable milk for my pantry. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about is pasta. So what kind of pastas do you use and can you stock up on them? Pasta lasts a very long time. It is dried already. It's not going to get any drier over time. And I do store what I can in a bucket with a lid as far as bagged pastas, and then I just keep the boxes on the shelf. So I keep oven-ready lasagna That is quick and easy in my house. Lots of spaghetti, whether it's original or thin or angel hair. I keep fettuccine. I keep rigatoni. I keep some penne pasta, bow tie pasta, and then sometimes like the shells, like Velveeta shells and cheese, like those type of shells, or like the noodles you would find in regular mac and cheese. So quite the noodle collection in my house, but we do use them all for different recipes. And so I have fallen victim in the past to like a recipe calling for like orecchiette pasta, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't have that, and so I'll order it online and pay extra for it. I don't do that anymore. If it calls for a type of pasta and I don't have it, I just pull out one of the ones that I do have and I use it, and it's just fine, I promise. So the next thing I have on my list is peanut butter. So peanut butter is a great source of protein. Peanut butter can go rancid if kept too long, so maybe don't stock too much of it. I keep about 5 jars of crunchy peanut butter at a time because my husband only likes crunchy peanut butter. We haven't had much of a need recently for creamy peanut butter because my daughter, as a teenager, developed a peanut allergy. However, her allergy seems to be easing back off. She's able to eat a little more peanut butter now, so I have 5 of the creamy peanut butters on hand so that she can have peanut butter toast. That's what they like, is peanut butter toast. Also, the peanut butter is great for like old-fashioned peanut butter cookies, and so we do keep peanut butter on hand. The next one that I wanted to talk about is flour. So you've got all different types of flour. I keep all-purpose flour on hand. There's baking flour, cake flour, bread flour, all different types of flour. I generally just stick to all-purpose flour, and so that's what I keep in my bucket with the lid. That's what I stock up on in the big bags from Walmart. Now, I do have a smaller bag of just bread flour to make bread with specifically, but I don't keep a ton of any other type of flour on hand. I'm not a huge baker. I'm not a huge bread maker, so I wouldn't need those items quite as much. So that's why I just keep all-purpose flour in my pantry. So the next one we'll talk about is condiments. Sorry guys, I'm watching the time. My kids are at karate. My husband is out of town in Oklahoma, so I've got to keep an eye on things so that I can make sure I get them picked up on time. So condiments, your mustard, your ketchup, your mayo, your relish, your Miracle Whip, your barbecue sauces, okay? Those are great things to keep in your pantry. And they're usually cheap things to stock up on. So depending on the time of year, like if you've got Memorial Day sales, you've got 4th of July sales, you've got Veteran Day sales, anytime that there's lots of grilling out, lots of cooking out, Father's Day, you're gonna find more sales on those items. And so that's a great time to stock up on them. So that's what I typically do. I keep at any given time probably 3 bottles of mustard, 3 bottles of ketchup. That's plenty in this house. And then I'm comfortable keeping 2 mayos because I know that we'll use it because we use it in coating of our pork chops and things. But I only keep 1 Miracle Whip at a time because I'm the only one that likes it in the house and I don't want it to spoil before I have a chance to use it up. So as far as relish goes, I just keep 1 of those 2 because again, I'm the only person in the house that's gonna eat it. And so there's no point in stockpiling or keeping a large stash of that. So the next thing I wanna talk about is sugar. So again, sugar, you've got lots of different ones, right? You got your plain sugar, your plain white everyday sugar. That's what I keep in the bucket with the lid on it. That's what I buy in the big bags at Walmart. But I do keep quite a bit of brown sugar. I usually have about 4 to 5 bags of brown sugar on hand, and then quite a bit of powdered sugar, probably anywhere from 8 to 10 bags of that on hand, because when I make large amounts of cookies, the icing I do is made with powdered sugar, and it takes a lot of it. So it really just depends. But if you're just starting out, the white sugar is a great way to go. And I've had no problem keeping it in the bucket with the lid, the flour or the sugar. We've had no problems with that in this house at all. The next one I will go with is vinegar. Vinegar is great to have on hand for cleaning, throwing into laundry, recipes, you name it, vinegar is great to have on hand, and it does not expire. And so, or at least does not expire quickly. It will last you a very long time. So instead of buying the smaller bottles of vinegar, which is what I used to do, I just buy one of the big jugs now. That gives me plenty of vinegar at a time. So I don't stock any more of that in my pantry. I just keep one big jug of vinegar at a time. Okay, so the next one is rice. I keep white rice, again, in a bucket with a lid on it. It will last for a very, very long time that way. I buy it in the big, huge bags, pour it into the bucket, okay? I've never had a problem with that. Not once have I had a problem with doing it that way. Now, brown rice can go bad because of the oils that are in the rice. So I don't even keep brown rice on hand. We don't eat a lot of brown rice. Probably the only time my family ever eats brown rice is when we go to Chipotle. But this month in our Too Good To Go thing from Ann's Health Food Store, we got a bag of brown rice. So I will use that to kind of recreate Chipotle bowls at home, but I will have to remember to make sure that it gets used up by its expiration date because I don't want it to go rancid on the shelf. All right, so the next one I have is honey or molasses for baking, sweetening different products, right? And with molasses and regular sugar, you can make brown sugar. I didn't know that until I was like 41 years old that you could do that. So do I keep any of this in my pantry? Yes, I keep one of each. I keep molasses because I like to bake gingerbread in the fall, and I keep honey just for general sweetening purposes or using a little bit here or there. Right now I actually have two honeys because I have a local honey that I bought, and then I have one that I got up in Seattle that is a blackberry honey, and it is delicious. I got it at the farmer's market in Seattle. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is canned tomatoes. So tomato paste, tomato sauce, diced tomatoes, rotel, whole tomatoes, stewed tomatoes, you name it, tomato products, right? And so we do keep most of those on hand. I've just recently added crushed tomatoes into my pantry. I wouldn't say I'm huge on stocking those yet. I probably have about 5 or 6 of them to try with stews and recipes coming up. So I thought we were going to have much colder weather for longer. It is already back up in the 60s in Texas, and we're supposed to have an early spring. So I'm not sure how much soups and stews we're going to make, but we do use a lot of canned tomatoes in different things like chili, again, stews, different recipes. So it is good to have all of those things on hand. The next one I will talk about is yeast. So I've mentioned this in a video before. So back when COVID hit, back in 2020, everyone started baking bread at home. I thought, okay, I can do that. I can bake bread at home. And I ordered yeast and everything, and I never made any bread. Then about probably 8 months or so ago, I got the bright idea again that I could make bread. So I got down the yeast and it had all expired. I was like, it'll be fine. We always use stuff past its expiration date. Did not work at all. So I bought some more yeast. This time it came in like a glass jar, cool. I would say it's fine to get yeast in bulk if you can keep it in a cold place like the freezer. I've seen that in a lot of videos. People will freeze it and pull it out and just use it as they need it. But keeping it in the pantry long term, I've had a bad experience with that. So technically, while it's on the list, because most places, most lists, most things are going to tell you to have yeast on hand, do I stock yeast in my house? No, I don't. If I'm going to need it, I just go pick it up. It's cheap, it's inexpensive, fairly cheap and inexpensive, right, in 2024 with inflation and everything. So I would just go buy it as I need it. I would not specifically stock it. Okay, hold on, I'll be right back. All right, sorry guys, I had to start the noodles for the mac and cheese that's going with dinner tonight. And now Pupster is down on the floor. We'll see how long that lasts. If I'm not looking directly at you and I seem kind of spacey, I promise it's just I'm trying to pay attention to the time. I'm trying to get dinner ready for the kids for when they get done. I'm trying to keep an eye on the puppy. It's a lot. There's a lot going on in my house. So the next thing I had on my list is, what did I just do? Hold on. I just messed up my whole list. Okay, the next thing I had on my list has disappeared. Give me just a minute. Sorry, guys. Okay, was ramen or soup packets. I have my list down here. It's like a digital format and I somehow like removed everything. So ramen or soup packets. We keep ramen noodles on hand at our house. They are out, they are in the basket system. If my kids do not like a meal that I'm cooking, or my kids are home for early release, whatever the case may be, they can fix ramen noodles, okay? And that's why I stock up on ramen noodles, is because I absolutely refuse to cook multiple meals a night in order to feed my family. Whatever it is I'm cooking, that's the meal that I'm cooking. I grew up in a house where the mother figure, which was my grandmother at the time, for a good bulk of my childhood, teenage years and stuff, would fix like 3 dinners to feed everybody. And I'm like, I'm absolutely not gonna do that. So I cook one meal. If anybody doesn't like it, ramen noodle it. You know how to make it work. So I also keep soup mixes on hand because they are easy to throw into recipes. So like your onion soup, beefy onion soup, those type of mixes. I keep several packets of each, probably 8 packets of each on hand. That way I have them ready to go when recipes call for them. And in fact, I've even started making my own homemade onion soup mix, and I used it in beef tips for the first time and it was amazing. That chef's kiss, right? It was so good. So keep your soup packets or learn how to make them on your own and then stock those in your pantry. So the next one I have is cooking oil. Now, whether that's your olive oil, your canola oil, your vegetable oil, your shortening, whatever type of oil you like to cook with. In my house, I keep olive oil, which I use pretty much day to day. And then I have canola oil for like if I'm baking or if I'm frying something, then I will use that. So that's what I stock. I get the olive oil in the big like 3-liter bottle from Sam's. It keeps just fine in my pantry. I've never had any problems with it going bad. The canola oil I also get from Sam's, the big 2-pack bottles. I've never had them go bad. And I know people say you can't keep oils past the expiration dates and all that kind of stuff. I've never had a problem with any of the oil that I've ever gotten. So keep your cooking oils on hand. The next one I will talk about is bouillon cubes or powder. So I do keep canned broths, beef and chicken for the most part. I do also have some vegetable broth right now because I got it on clearance at Target. That's a new ingredient for me this year. But I also have bouillon cubes, beef and chicken, because they last for a very long time. And I've just recently added beef bouillon powder because I'm using it in some different cooking mixes that I'm making as well. So I do recommend keeping the bouillon cubes. It's much more economical than keeping canned broths. I only have the broths because I got them on manager special at Kroger when they were 4 for $1, 4 cans for $1. So that's the reason I have them. Otherwise, I would definitely be using the bouillon cubes or the powder. Okay, so the next one I have on the list is canned veggies. That's probably like the no-brainer on the list, right? I'm trying to figure out how to take you off the tripod here because I've got to go stir the noodles again. So canned vegetables, I keep a lot of canned vegetables, and I keep lots of different ones. So I'm talking green beans, corn, peas, carrots, ranch style beans, baked beans, then all the different types of beans that I use in recipes, like cannellini beans, great northern beans. I'm gonna forget some of them, I promise. I'm trying to use my brain, I swear. And I also keep canned, like sliced potatoes. I'm cleaning up a puppy mess. I have to wash my hands. This is so fun. But I keep hominy on hand. Sorry, I was saying the sliced potatoes, diced potatoes, all of that on hand. And it's not only for cooking as the vegetable itself, but having them quick and easy and ready to go to throw into things like a vegetable soup or a stew, anything like that. So your canned veggies is a great thing to stock up on. Okay, I'm gonna sit back down. The next one I have is spices. So you do want to start building up a good spice area, and you want to stock the spices that you eat with, you know, that you season your food with most often. So we keep out at all times salt, pepper, and Queen Bee's Cajun seasoning. And then probably the ones we utilize the most out of my pantry are seasoned salt, garlic powder, onion powder, paprika, and chili powder, and then the Tony Chachere's Cajun seasoning. So we use all of those quite a bit. So those are ones that I would want to have in stock in my pantry, in my house, plus more of it on hand so that I don't run out. And chicken fajita seasoning too. We go through quite a bit of that. But what I do is I keep all of my spices in little mason jars with lids on them. They're actually back there in those wooden crates. They're just small. They hold enough spice. And then as they empty, I pull the bigger bottles out and fill them up. So I do keep lots of different spices on hand, that's for sure. And then the next one is baking soda, baking powder. And I'm the world's worst at remembering which is which. So the recipe will call for baking powder, and I'm like, is that the one I have in the little canister, or is that the one I have in the bigger bag? I always have to check. So I do keep baking powder and baking soda on hand. I have at least a couple of cans of the one that's in the can, which I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which one it is. I believe that's the baking powder. And then the baking soda I have in the big bag, like 3 or 5 pound bag that comes from Sam's. So I do keep those on hand all the time for baking. All right, the next one I have is drink mixes, coffee, and tea. So we are trying very hard in my house not to drink as much soda and not to go out and just pick up a drink on the way home from work, because we get really complacent with that sometimes. And the next thing you know, we're spending like $7 a day going to 7-Eleven to get drinks. And at that point, it's like you should have just bought a 12-pack and brought it home, right? So I do recommend, and I do keep my coffee. So I don't go out to Starbucks ever. I don't buy coffee out ever. I always have my own coffee. And so keep your coffee stocked up. Tea, I do fix tea for my family pretty much like 3 times a week at this point. It's easy. I have a tea maker back there. And so I just put 2 tea bags in it and, you know, follow the thing. Here's this much water, pour it in, add the tea bags, fill it up to here with ice, make it, add sugar. Boom, done. And then we have also went to utilizing drink mixes for the kids again, like Country Time Lemonade, Country Time Pink Lemonade, and then they have cherry Kool-Aid or tropical punch Kool-Aid. So they'll tell me which one they want. I fix it, put it in a pitcher. It's in the fridge. We also, let's see if I can show you guys here, because it's actually the fridge behind me, bought this Brita water filter thing for inside the fridge. And so it has filtered water all the time, so we don't have to deal with bottled water anymore. Okay, so the next one is maple syrup. Maple syrup is also a great sweetener for things. Maple syrup is wonderful for pancakes and waffles. My son loves it for French toast, so we use quite a bit of maple syrup in our house. So what I typically keep, I'll show you here since I'm right by the pantry, is I keep the big jug that I get at Sam's Club, and then I will get a second one once we're about halfway empty. So we're a little under halfway on that one, and I do have one in line behind it ready to go. So I'm gonna pause right here for just a minute, guys, so I can drain these noodles and get the cheese in them, and then I'll be back to wrap up the video. All right, so I got that done. I got you back on the tripod. So that will just sit on the warming burner until the kids get here. And I think I just got a steam burn on my fingers. So yay, that's gonna feel great for the next few days. Okay, so the next one I have is cornstarch, because you're gonna need a thickening agent. I do keep cornstarch on hand. You can thicken stews, soups. I use it for gravies, all different sorts of things. You will need it In chili, if you don't have masa, you can use the cornstarch. And now the puppy's gonna try to eat the tripod. No, sir. No. Always something. It's always something. So I do keep cornstarch on hand. I have it in just the normal like yellow container, right, the blue lid, I think. And I keep the one that's open plus one in the pantry. And I haven't had any problems with that ever going bad before I have a chance to use it. And the next one I have is cooking sauces. So I do like to have some cooking sauce, like what I consider cooking sauces on hand. This would be like pizza sauce, spaghetti sauce, things of that nature. I used to keep cheese sauce for cooking. However, I don't do that anymore because I have had cheese sauce go bad. And it should not have, but it did. I also don't keep Alfredo sauce. Ow! And sorry, he bit my foot. On the top of my foot. I don't keep Alfredo sauce in stock because I like making it homemade. It is not hard to do and it has a way better flavor. So I don't keep Alfredo sauce. Unless someone gives me one, then, you know, we'll use it. But so for the most part, I'm talking pizza sauce and spaghetti sauce. And I do keep quite a bit of that on hand as it goes on sale. Now, I do have lots of other sauces as far as like marinades go. And that's actually something I'm trying not to buy as much of anymore because I tend to buy a lot of them and I tend not to use them. And then they will sit here and go bad. So 2024, I'm not buying cake mixes, like cake and baking mixes, and I'm not buying any marinades because I need to use what I have on hand. Okay, so the next one I have is we've talked about canned beans, but dry beans. So dry beans are great to have on hand. Dry beans are cheaper and you can get a lot more of them for your money. You do have to soak them, you have to sort them, but they are super handy to have. I, for a while, was keeping beans in my pantry. I have tried multiple times to make red beans. I cannot make them like my grandmother or my mother can. And so I just made myself understand I'm not good at that for some reason. And so I talked to my mom and I was like, hey, if I give you all of my red beans that I have, will you make them and split them with me? And we'll make cornbread to go with them and we'll have red beans and cornbread or pinto beans and cornbread or red beans and rice, whatever. And so my mom said, absolutely. And she lives 20 minutes down the road now. So we cook a lot at my house. So it gives her something to cook at her house. So I'm excited for red beans and pinto beans to come because they're way better when my mom makes them. Okay, so then the last one that I have for you, this is actually probably my favorite, is canned cream soups. So I've actually seen a quote somewhere before, long ago, that said, never underestimate a woman with a can of cream of something soup. It's amazing what we can do with it. It's handy in casseroles, slow cooker dishes, Instapot dishes, any type of cooking. So do I keep cream soups on hand? Absolutely. I keep cream of chicken and cream of mushroom at all times. Again, I was lucky enough to get those at one point for $1. And so I still have some in my pantry that's still in date and everything. I will be sad once those are gone because that was a great stock up price. But that's the only cream soups that I keep. Those are pretty much your main ones. Cream of chicken, cream of mushroom. Now, I see recipes that call for other ones. And if I was gonna make one of those recipes, I would probably Google it and try to find out, like, can I substitute one of them that I have for that? Or do I really need it? And then if I did really need it, I would just go buy one. I would get one can. I wouldn't worry about stocking up a whole bunch unless it was like a recipe that I fell in love with afterwards, then I might go stock up on a few just to have. So that's 25 food pantry staples that if you start there, you're gonna have a pretty good pantry together, a pretty good prepper pantry together with these things. They work together well. You will have lots of meal options with them. Now, of course, you're gonna find a million things that you wanna add in over time. I am still, like, I find things and I'm like, I wanna start stocking that, and I do. But This dog is something else. But anyways, don't worry about that. It's gonna happen. You're gonna have more than 25 ingredients in your pantry, I promise. But again, I will remind you, go slow, build your pantry up. Don't worry about it. It's not a race. And if there's anything on this list that doesn't fit with what your family uses, don't buy it. Okay, so you're not gonna need it. Perhaps you have a family that doesn't drink milk. You have a lactose intolerance or something like that. Don't buy shelf-stable milk. You wouldn't need it. Perhaps you have a child with a peanut allergy as well, so you wouldn't want to stock up on peanut butter. Or maybe you are like, I am not interested in making bread, or I've tried it, I'm not good at it, and I don't want to stock yeast. That's okay. Okay. The name of the game here is stock what you're going to use. Okay. I cannot stress that enough. Stock what you're going to use. So that is all I have for video 2 in my tips and tricks on starting a prepper pantry or a working pantry. The next one is going to revolve around, okay, so I've started my prepper pantry. I've built up a stock of these items that I deemed that I want in my prepper pantry. Now, how do I do a pantry challenge? What are the rules? Who says what I can and can't do, right? So we're going to talk about that in the next video. How do you go about starting a prepper challenge? What is it? What's a pantry challenge? Is it just a pantry clean out? I mean, I just worked hard to stock up all this stuff and now you're telling me to burn through it. So we're going to talk about that next. So I hope you like this video. Make sure to like and subscribe, ring the little notification bell. That way you don't miss the 3rd video in the series. And I will see you guys in the next one.